Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general mid-month reading for the sign of Aquarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the last 2 weeks of September. I hope you are well. I have not been. I was quite unwell last week and I am much better now, but I have been left with somewhat of a residual cough, so I'm hoping to get through this entire reading without hacking at you. But apologies if it happens in advance. So, if you have not seen these readings before, I structure them differently to the main monthly readings in so much as we are looking for the lesson. I believe that there is wisdom, or indeed a lesson, contained in every experience and interaction that we have. And sometimes we lose sight of that when we get bogged down with the day-to-day minutiae of our situations. And so this is an exercise in perspective. It's about pulling back a little bit and hopefully feeling more able to navigate what can be pretty challenging energy if we can see the point of it, you know. So we'll start off with 3 cards that will look at the energy that you are in right now, and then we'll move to 3 cards and work out why you are there. Now sometimes it's trying to teach you something about yourself, other times it's trying to clear the decks in front of you to allow new things to come in. You know, we won't know until the cards hit the table. And then we will close out with 3 cards of advice. These cards are fuck off. So I hope that all makes sense. Yes, what else do I have to tell you? I had something else to tell you. Oh, I did a 6-month overview for each of the signs that runs from July to December this year. Now obviously we're a third of the way through that, more than a third of the way through that now, and so I have adjusted the prices of that accordingly. The link is in the description box and I've reduced them by a third. So if you haven't yet seen them, I think it's worth having a look, but that's just me. So anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's get some cards for you, Aquarius, and see what's going on. I have 3 cards for Aquarius energy, please. There we go, there's the first one. We have the 2 of Cups. That was a 10 of Wands that jumped out there. I'm going to show it to you, but put it back. Cards for... what the fuck? For Aquarius, please. Thank you. We have the 10 of Pentacles. And the 5 for Aquarius, please. For fuck's sake. It's not like this deck to be skittish, and it's quite interesting. There we go, there it is. We have the Ace of Wands. This is quite an extraordinary set of cards, Aquarius. We have the Magician at the bottom of the deck there. It's a card I associate with Gemini, although it does correspond to Virgo because of their mercurial connection. And the Magician energy is that of extreme power. You know, it's a card of manifestation. It's one that speaks of you having all the tools that you need to accomplish whatever it is that you're setting out to do at any given point, right? And it's all about focusing your intent along with, you know, the correct ratios of all of the elements. You know, the Wands, the Pentacles, the Cups and the Swords, in order to get what you want. And this is an incredibly powerful card. But the depiction in the Tarot of the Abyss is quite an interesting one, because we don't have any of the other elements depicted. What we have is a magician rooted to the ground with tree branches coming out of his head. You see that? It's very cool. With this kind of spinning energy in front of him. It's like anything that you put your hands to at this time is almost augured to be magnificent. But it's a very strong positioning with the other cards that we have here too, you know. It's not the first card in the tarot. The first card is the Fool, but it is the next card. And so we have an energy of beginnings, you know. And we have the Ten of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands here. Now, I honestly think an end and a beginning are exactly the same thing. It just depends where you're looking at it. That dictates whether you perceive it as an end or a beginning. Now, the Ten of Pentacles is given to be the culmination of the Pentacles suit. It talks about material prosperity. Excuse me. But it can talk about other things too. It can talk about commitment. It can talk about longevity. I often see it as that point where heritage and legacy collide, and I actually think that we see that played out here in this card. Because that looks like a memory to me. And from that memory, we've got roots that are extending up along the hand till they come to this second hand, where we've got a fully fledged tree with the pentacles on top and a house in the background. I think that's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary visual there. And so it is that point where heritage and legacy collide. Now, for some of you, it may also refer to generational karma. But the point is, from the perspective that you're at, there's something of a completion going on here. There's attainment, there's achievement. It fits very nicely with the Magician. We also have the Ace of Wands. This Ace of Wands is extraordinary. I think it's my favourite in any deck because we've got that little phoenix there. Now, the Ace contains the potentiality of the suit that it represents. So in this case, it is the Wands, and everything within the Wand suit lives inside this Ace. It is a seed, if you will. But it's a fiery seed. It's one that speaks of new passion, new creativity, new inspiration, new ways of doing things. Because the Wand suit ultimately talks about living and experience and doing and activity. There's definitely a direction, a different direction that you seem to have swerved off into, Aquarius. And I'm rather irritated with myself because I cannot bring to mind the content of the readings that we have been doing together for the last couple of months. So I've rather lost the context in which this is occurring. But this Two of Cups is interesting because the Two of Cups talks about an alignment of two people. Now that can be a romantic relationship, but actually I tend not to err towards that as too much of an interpretation. It is a union of sorts, but it's two people coming together with shared goals and visions, you know. We see it with business partners sometimes, friends and stuff too. It talks about intimacy too. Like, your energy at the moment is just completely magic, Aquarius. It seems like everything that you're touching at this point is turning to gold, but without, you know, the unfortunate king. No, it's not King Canute, it's the other one. I cannot remember, I cannot bring it to mind. But things feel grounded and rooted and yet full of incredible potential. There's no sense here of you being stagnant or being held on to by circumstances. It's more like a firm foundation has been created. And now an opportunity to go off in a slightly different direction has appeared. What is really interesting to me is that the three cards on the table are from every other element other than yours. Remember how I said at the beginning that the Magician is usually depicted with all of those elements on the table, you know, because he's drawing from each of them. And it's missing here in this card. What we have is just the Magician and rooted tree branches. But if you take it to be a Gemini card, there are the swords. And then we have cups, we have pentacles, and we have wands here. You're in Magician energy right now. And whatever it is that you're setting out to manifest, whatever it is that you're setting out to intend to bring into being, it feels like it's very much supported. I'm going to pull some extra cards. I don't usually do that with the mid-months, but I am intrigued. Tell me about this Ace of Wands. What is this about for? Right. So we see having hit a period of clarity, actually, I think here, Aquarius, because we've got the Two of Swords and the Five of Swords underneath. It's almost like you've been stuck in a bit of a brain fog recently, and that seems to have shifted. It's lifted from you, and there was something quite contracted about the way that you were thinking about a situation, right? It was the scope was far too narrow, and in that way that Aquarians are blessed with, it's like you've lifted your eyes from the situation right in front of you and you've looked a little further ahead. Perhaps you've seen the potential in something and how it can be expanded now, but where it's been foggy, now there is clarity, and now you know what to do. You know, these two swords here, two sword cards here, are, you know, indecision and sometimes, you know, a somewhat willful ignorance of a situation. It's almost like you don't want to make a decision one way or another, principally because on a subconscious level you have already made that decision and you are not comfortable with it. You're not comfortable with the consequences of it, right? So you go, I'm going to sit here and pretend that I need to choose between these two swords, and actually the decision is already made. And the Five of Swords, it can speak to conflict, verbal conflict with people, but often I see it as that kind of cognitive loops that we get stuck in, and sometimes breaking out of that altogether, rejecting the premise of whatever it is that you're being asked to choose between, going, no, there is another way. There is a third road here that I did not see, and now I see it. This seems to be what's woken up for you here. One more card for that, please. Whoa. Four of Pentacles. Right, so there was something that you were holding on to. And with the Knight of Wands at the bottom of the deck, I think that you have cracked it. Understood. You know, and it might be that there were some subconscious biases or something like that that you had not realized were in operation. But now with this Ace of Wands being here, like the capacity for movement, the capacity for new action is presented to you. But it's all coming off the back of this groundwork that happened with the Ten of Pentacles and this Two of Cups, which appears to be quite an important relationship of whatever sort it finds itself in. So that Two of Cups. We've got the Five of Pentacles in reverse. Tell me about this. And whatever you are. And the Queen of Wands. It could be an Aries or a fire sign of any description, but there you are as the star at the bottom of the deck, and the Ace of Cups. I mean, this could be a romantic relationship, it's possible, but there's some element of having come in out of the cold on something, whether this is emotionally having found a person, you know, that you're working with, or, you know, getting together with. That's the thing. Or whether it is in some sort of broader respect. But there's definitely a fire element character here who's assisting, and they don't have to be female. Tarot doesn't give a shit about gender. It's about the presentation of the energy, and this is fiery, this is inspired. It matches very nicely with the Ace of Wands here, and it seems like this person in some respects has acted as a key in a lock, you know, for a door that you've been trying to open for a while. Now, that's not to say that they're the one who's opened it for you. It's more like something about the way that they do things, the way that they live, maybe even the way that they think, has kind of caused you to look at something slightly differently and bring yourself in from the cold, almost. Certainly having a better idea of where it is that you are going and what it is that you need to do. And it is you, I feel, Aquarius, who is doing at the moment. It's not this other person. That's they are an actor in this scene with you, but ultimately all of the movement is coming from you at this point. Can you tell me why Aquarius is in this energy, please? All right, then we have the Eight of Pentacles, we have the Knight of Pentacles, and we have Strength. We have the Ten of Swords at the bottom of the deck here. Now, in the Tarot of the Abyss, there are 2 Ten of Swords and there are 2 Three of Swords. And one of each of those depictions is fairly standard. It is what you would expect to see in a Ten of Swords or a Three of Swords. But the alternative ones have a very different take on what is incredibly challenging energy. I think they're the 2 most challenging cards in the tarot, personally. And this Ten of Swords is something very, very different to what we usually see. Usually we've got a man lying on the ground, he's got swords sticking out of him everywhere, and he's looking pretty fucked, to be honest. You know, he's been pretty much left for dead. This is different. Oh. And it's followed by Awakening, which is the Judgment card here. This is pretty big, Aquarius. So here we have an owl, which is a symbol of wisdom, and ever has it been thus, who is looking squarely in the eye of this man. And the man looks content. He is, there's a mild smile there on his face, right? And there's no fear. He is facing whatever his Ten of Swords situation has been. And more than that, he sees the benefit of it. He sees how he has grown and matured under the lesson of this Ten of Swords, right? And more than that, it seems to have caused somewhat of an awakening within you here. You know? It's quite an extraordinary combination of cards. You see the swords are within the owl's feathers there. It's the wisdom that comes from experience. And the important thing is that there is no fear. The important thing is that it seems to have either helped you make a decision or at least awoken you to something, whatever that may be. And that may be an aspect of yourself that has been sabotaging you for a while, or it might be you being blown right open with spiritual downloads, right? It's going to be different for each of you. But the important thing is your past was everything that you needed to get you to where you are right now. And the perspective change that has gone on in you recently feels like a tremendous liberation, Aquarius. Insane. Because you have grown. I mean, you have a sense of what is important. Aquarians, I think, are always very happy to just put their head down and work on things. You know, you don't need external validation from other people. But perhaps it has been that you have lost your way a little bit of late. You weren't quite sure whether it was having lost a sense of purpose or why it was you were working for something in the first place, you know. This feels like you having been pulled back onto your path in some way or another. Now, it's not to say that deviating from your path was you coming off your path, because sometimes that deviation is your path, right? But we've got the Eight of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles here. And I see Pentacles as energetic currency. So what we have going on here is your time, your care, your effort, your love. You know, anything that you are capable of investing then becomes, to me, a pentacle. And we already have seen that something recently has had you bringing yourself in from the cold, noticing ways in which you are not meeting your own basic needs and addressing that. But more importantly, we have kind of a focus going on here, because the Eight of Pentacles is about working at something, like working hard at something, and through time and experience and doing the same thing over and over again, reaching a level of mastery and attainment. It's a similar sort of energy that we get off the Magician here. But there's building going on here. There's construction of something, and maybe it's a new Aquarius. Right? Maybe it's a new improved version of Aquarius. But this Knight of Pentacles, this Virgo energy here, isn't just understanding the value of something. I see that in the Page of Pentacles. This is about living your life with that front and center. And it's not shiny and it's not fast. You know, the Knight of Swords is your is your knight, and it's given to be the fastest one in the deck, but it is sometimes hasty, and it is, you know, immature in ways. The energy of this knight here is much, much slower. It is methodical, but it is always with what is important front and center, right? Now, this one will get a task done. Maybe it was that you needed to slow down a little bit and pay a little bit more attention to your surroundings, or whatever it is, your surroundings and yourself, you know, pay attention to how you were changing, pay attention to the messages that were coming into you, you know, that sort of thing. But we've got the Strength card here too. Now this is the card of Leo. And Leo is your exact opposite on the zodiac, right? So what happens to one generally has a ripple effect to the other. And Leo and Aquarius do seem to have had somewhat of a journey to go on this year. I mean, I think all of the signs have in some way or another, but particularly you two. I mean, it was almost a year ago that I had this sense of Leo and Aquarius being separated from everybody else, and I just don't feel like you've been particularly sociable this year. I mean, depending on where you are in the world, that might have not even been an option for you, right? I'm looking at you, Australia, right? I see what you're going through, but there's been a very, very personal journey for Aquarius and Leo. And the Strength card is indicative of growth, right? That's what it is, pure and simple. It is transcending boundaries. It is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and then arriving at a new place and going, okay, do you know what? This is going to be home now. You know, and that shit is hard. People don't do that sort of thing. And, you know, there may be ways in which other people could see you pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. But ultimately, I think for Leo, it's been, and I think, again, that this is the same for Aquarius, it's been deeply internal. It is quite likely that if you try to sit down and explain to people what had gone on with you this year, what had changed in you this year, that you might really struggle to find the vocabulary for it. Certainly to be able to express it to the, you know, the fullest extent that you have experienced it, at least. But you have grown strong and you have grown resilient. And part of that, I think, was this deviation, wherever you've been, where you felt like you were off your path, but you weren't really off your path, you know. It's almost like your mind had to catch up with where your soul had got to, Aquarius. Well, it's funny, I was listening to something the other day, a chap on Odyssey, and he said, and I found this quite interesting, and it's not something that I'd ever considered before, that our souls do not have consciousnesses. And when I heard that, I was like, well, that's actually fucking obvious now I think about it, you know. Consciousness exists in you here, now, in 3D, to further the work of your soul, to allow you to do the things that have your soul, you know, being all bright and sparkly and, you know, whatever it is that souls do. Every conscious moment that passes with you here, Aquarius, is you doing something that is either bringing you closer to your higher self. And it's just feeding the web of the collective consciousness, you know. The point is, you have a better idea of where you're going now. And you have a better sense of why it is important for you to go there. And with this Strength card, we do see empowerment. We do see, you know, an increase in resilience. wisdom, also an increase in patience. I think your ability to see the future, that visionary energy that Aquarians have, where you can look to the horizon, you know how to get there. I think it might sometimes make you quite impatient in the here and now, whether it's waiting for other people to catch up with you, or, trying to skip a load of bits so you can get to where it is that you're trying to, that you've foreseen, And sometimes it's not about the end destination, Aquarius. Sometimes it is about the journey. And it seems to me that you're now more focused on the journey than on the end destination. I mean, still got it in mind. You still see it there. Yeah, there it is. But you seem to be taking your time a little bit more, making sure that the foundations are laid properly within you and also within any situation that you approach hereafter. Let's get you some cards of advice. Some cards of advice, please. We have the Nine of Wands. We have the Awakening card again. And we have the Three of Swords. Your pain, Aquarius, as hidden as it is, and it is hidden, right? There are a number of signs who do not wear their hearts on their sleeves, and you are one of them, right? And think of others. Capricorn, for example. Even Leo, actually, to a degree. The ways in which you have suffered and the pain that you have experienced and that you have dealt with quietly, or potentially not dealt with. The point of it is becoming apparent now. I said to you, the Ten of Swords and the Three of Swords were, for me, the two most challenging cards in the tarot, and you have them both here. But with this Nine of Wands and this Awakening card here too, like, the purpose is coming. Where you are, as strong as you are right now, it's all come about through this. Is it time to start sharing a little bit, Aquarius? Or is it time to start trusting that you can be intimate with people, with your inner space, possibly? But this awakening that is happening for you, and it does feel like you're having somewhat of an awakening, Aquarius, it makes all the struggles worth it, I think. Now, I'm not saying that you should start, putting banners up everywhere, going, hello, I am emotionally damaged, somewhat brittle. I've had lots and lots of shitty things to deal with. I don't think that you're ever going to do that, and neither should you. But within your experience, there are things that can help other people. And I think sometimes, Aquarius, you're so busy staring at the horizon and looking at that goal, at the future, where you're going, that you often don't stop and give yourself any credit for how far you have come in the interim. And on that path, so far as you have come, there is so much wisdom there. And I think you're coming to a point where you're shedding your skin to such an extent that you won't be able to hide the fact that you have answers for other people. It's almost like you're being asked to prepare to be, not to be available, but to be approached now by people who would benefit from the wisdom of your experiences. Tell me about this awakening card. Knight of Cups, Pisces energy. And Death, Scorpio energy. You are being reborn. Notice both these characters are astride white horses and they're off. Like, as you open up, so everything changes, Aquarius. Not just for the people around you, but also for you. It's actually facilitating more of an upgrade for you when you push yourself out of your comfort zone and you allow yourself to share those intimate bits of you with someone else who is struggling. Like, this is the thing. I feel like you can look at people and you can see them being places you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it is, you know, and those things that were so difficult for you to work out by yourself. There's a kind of like, be that person that you needed when you were younger, you know. If there was something that someone could have walked up to you and said when you were struggling that would have changed your perspective or helped you see things a little bit differently, you know, what would that have been? Because I feel like you are being called. And there's a calling to start being aware of those people around you. And it's not a one-way process, Aquarius. The more you open up to people and you help people, the more you change as a result, and you are being completely transformed. Tell me about this Three of Swords, the Hermit, and the Nine of Cups. You know, pain is something that we all try and avoid, but actually it's the thing that gets us closer to what is important and what it is that we actually really want. Not things that, you know, media companies tell us that we want, not things that adverts tell us that we want. I mean, the things that are truly important and the things that you have some insight into. Now, having gone within, you have got answers. And there's a real sense of you kind of just, I don't know, I feel like my lip curling slightly when I'm thinking about material things, when I'm looking at this, Aquarius. It's like there's some sort of search for a divine truth and you have touched upon it now. You've felt it and you are changed. But there's a process that comes after that as you assimilate that into your new experience. And I feel like you're getting to the end of that process. But as you pop out the other side of that process, it feels like reaching out to people or just, you know, paying attention to synchronicities. You know, somebody pops up in front of you and asks you a pertinent question, asks you for advice. And rather than being detached in a way that is separating yourself from other people, you can be detached compassionately, not invest yourself in their story, but offer them a pentacle. What an extraordinary reading, Aquarius. Your readings are always amazing. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.